Welcome to Commander Central, episode 250, and today, in honor of show 250, we'll be taking listener questions from people like yourself. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
Well, happy Friday afternoon, gentlemen, although it's happy Monday morning to a lot of listeners, but how's it going, boys?
I don't know what I was supposed to do this morning when I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and there was no WandaVision to watch.
That was usually the start of your Friday?
That was always the start of my Friday, was waking up early to watch WandaVision, and I didn't do that today.
Next Friday, you will have Falcon and Winter Soldier, so you'll at least have something next week.
And Snyder Cut. I don't know if I'm going to put the 4 hours into it, but I have the option to.
Well, it's nice and sunny here. I already took the dog for a walk right before this. I'm going to grill tonight when the family gets home. So it's spring, kind of, as close enough for mid-March. So I'm feeling pretty decent.
For me to dash all your hopes? I was looking at the weather.
And I saw that.
Monday, the day that this show airs, we're looking at snow again.
Yeah, I saw that. But it's still pretty decent like the rest of the week after that, so it won't stick around, hopefully.
It's going to be one of those stupid, like, mushy, watery messes again.
Yeah.
Super heavy stuff that only lasts for like 2 days. Ugh.
And luckily, we saw here in Wisconsin, a bunch of people, Max and I both will be eligible for vaccine shots here in the next couple weeks. So that's I'm feeling pretty good about that as well. And I would bet Chris could get on the list if he wanted to also. So
I'm already eligible right now.
So we're all hopefully going to be in that immunized category here pretty quick, and we can get back out there. I'm betting we won't get Magic Fest this year, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm kind of excited for all that as well. For news this week, Modern Horizons 2 dates were officially released. So there'll be a pre-release on June 4th and an official release on June 11th, which means we'll get spoilers mid-May. So probably shortly after Strixhaven stuff finally finishes hitting.
Too bad you can't do pre-release in the stores and all that,
Right.
Wizards, that's their rules. So I don't understand why they're even posting a
Why they announce it. Yeah. Although hopefully, again, maybe even, I doubt by then, but hopefully that maybe by Forgotten Realms that will have ceased. So again, hopefully that there's an end. Yeah. But Modern Horizons 2, do you guys have any particular things you're hoping for from that expansion? Or are you just hoping we don't get a Hogak?
I want another Hogak. I want something broken in this set hard.
I was gonna say I've been marketing Hogak 2 Electric Boogaloo now with Dredge.
Well, so I remember this specifically too. When that set came out, even modern players, for the most part, weren't commenting on Hogak being like a busted card. It took like a week or two. And
they were all over Urza and that.
Yeah, and however, we talked about it on the show, and I just asked Chris if anything looked good in Modern, and I specifically recall Chris saying, the guys in the shop that were playtesting, they think Hogak might be a real thing.
Yep.
And I remember you saying that. I remember me thinking, I wouldn't have thought that was a card. I guess we'll see. And then like a week later is when it was blowing up everywhere. So I wanted to, I'll use this opportunity to congratulate Chris and the Modern players locally we have that they were on that real early.
Yeah, that's such a broken. Well, when you have a card that you can cast for almost free, I mean, Of course that's going to be the card that you're like, let's see if we can break this.
And obviously in hindsight, it's one of those cards you're like, well, yeah, like you said, just casting stuff for free in competitive formats is almost always busted. So
casting stuff for free in Commander's busted.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know if there's, like, I asked that question. I don't even have an answer really myself because we got a lot of stuff last time. We've had so many weird sets in between. I'm sure we won't see snow again, but we'll probably see new slivers, I would guess.
Probably.
And that's always fun.
Because they just redid slivers in Time Spiral. So, I mean, they might do new ones.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I mean, that's quite a couple sets back to back of slivers, and it might be a burnout session for people on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking, but I'm wondering if the reprints of the ones in the Time Spiral didn't kind of hint at getting new stuff in Modern Horizons.
It could.
Yeah.
The big thing that I want to see, though, and it was confirmed that there's supposed to be enemy fetches in this set.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want them to actually be in the set and not as, say, a box topper type of thing like they did with the original Modern Horizons.
Something that can actually knock the prices down for the average player.
Yeah, and I mean, the prices aren't super bad right now for a couple of the enemy ones, but like the high dollar ones, I'd rather have a chance if you can actually chase them. So
yeah, for sure. I'm totally agreeing with you there. Absent that, I would not be against seeing them maybe finish off the other half of the Horizon land cycle as well. I guess we already have one of the lands. We just need to get 4 new ones, but we have Horizon Canopy already. But I wouldn't mind seeing them finish that cycle as well in there if we didn't get fetches in the actual set. But
my God, that's going to change Modern so much if they do.
Yeah, which is why I wonder if they wouldn't do it if they're happy just having the 6 of them. So who knows?
And it might be another set of cards that it would be a pitch point for another set coming in the future type of deal.
Right, yeah. And those would probably also be safe in Standard, I would think. I don't think they would break Standard. Who knows? Maybe they would. But they could do that in Standard, I would think. Yeah, it's close.
A pain land, but you get to draw too. So I don't know if it really would, but it is ally colors. So that might be a thing.
And it's always a pain thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, if you out there in listener land have any guesses about what's in Modern Horizon or just want to let us know what's going on in your life, how would you get a hold of us, Chris?
You can reach us on a multitude of social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can search us up on Facebook, CMDR Central. You can find us online at cmdrcentral.com. And you can also find us on YouTube by searching CMDR Central.
You can also head over to patreon.com/CMDR Central and check out our reward tiers such as the Decks You Play series, guesting on the show, or just joining our community in Slack and chatting with us and getting some virtual EDH games in.
Yes, indeed. So we would like to say thank you to all those patron supporters, those in our Slack, those that aren't, and thank you to even the listeners, like anyone who supports us, even if all you can do is just listen to the show or give us that upvote or that like. We appreciate it. It means a lot and helps with engagement. So thank you very much to everyone out there. Should we jump right into this main topic here today?
Heck,
sure.
Let's do it.
I'm just hoping I can follow the rotation you wanted us to do. That's my biggest worry right now.
We'll see. So we gave a bunch of questions here to listeners and patron supporters for episode 250. So we're just going to answer listener questions.
And
so
I'm going
to start us off here.
Yeah, before we start this, Max, I'm going to let everyone know. I think there's 2 questions on here that I did research on it. The rest of them, I'm just winging it. It's coming right off the top of my head, so it's a complete honest answer.
Granted, I was the one who could see all the forms get submitted. So I briefly saw questions, but I did no preparation for any of these.
All right. Good to know. I, however, organized the notes, so I have seen them, but I didn't prepare answers for a lot of them. Some of them I had to, but I'll try to be as extemporaneous as possible here. So start us off, Max.
Okay, so our first 2 questions come from Prophet. His first question is, will you continue playing on SpellTable when/if the pandemic is over? So for me personally, I probably will continue playing through virtual EDH SpellTable, whereby just because it's a way for me to interact with all of our Patreon supporters, the people that we may get to meet, at an event. Now I can just jump in and say, anybody want to play EDH? So I think virtual EDH has been kind of a blessing in the fact that we've gotten to connect with everyone out there that listen to us and support us and are in our Slack that we maybe would never meet at an event or only get to see them once in a lifetime, where now I'm playing games with those people every other week or something like that. Chris, what about you?
Sense. Personally, for me, I've played 1 game on SpellTable so far. And I'm going to be completely honest. Now that it's summertime, no, I would not be on it. When winter time comes around, yes, I would definitely be, willing to play it more. Due to the simple fact is, any free time I have in the summer, I want to be outside doing other stuff. And the winter, no, I just want to, hide and hope that everything melts soon.
I completely get that, Chris. I will keep playing on SpellTable, I would imagine, as well. I guess we haven't discussed whether or not we will keep recording remotely or go back to in person either, so we'll have to figure that out as well. This has been very convenient. There's advantages to recording face-to-face, but then you have to donate one of your evenings and away from your family, whatever. Being able to record over lunch during the week has been super useful in making this less impactful on our life. So we'll have to have that conversation. As for SpellTable, yeah, I can't give it up now that I've gotten used to doing it. I'm still going to go to the shop and play, but having the ability to just play a quick pickup game, if you're sitting around the house on a Tuesday night or something with nothing to do at 9 o'clock, you're not just going to get dressed and go to the shop and play probably, but you can just jump on SpellTable and play a quick game.
I was going to say Chris would. Chris does it all the time.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, that's tough for most people to do. You can just grab a game in 5 minutes if you want to on SpellTable. So having that option is, once I've gotten used to it, is going to be tough to give up. So I will be definitely continuing to do so. Although, to be honest, I don't play that much on SpellTable, in part just because I'm busy. I got a lot of stuff going on. So like, I wish I could play more just fun games, but I don't have that many like free evenings to play for the most part. I record EDH Rec stuff one night. We stream there one night. I do prep work for shows. I do writing for articles. And then spending time with my family, like I wish I had more evenings free to play, and I just really don't. So that's why Max plays more than me. He has a little more time than I do. You don't have a ton either, Max, but you have a little more, so you get on more than I do. But I would like to play more than I even do, but I definitely am not going to give it up.
Awesome.
You know what? I think next chance I get, like when it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep, I'm just going to go on Slack and be like, anyone up? Want to play a game? I need to go to bed. So someone try to drain my mental energy.
Awesome. So Prophet's second question is, what are some of our favorite Wisconsin beers? I guess I will answer first. I'm a big fan of the Brewing Project. That's local here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They make a bunch of sweet IPAs. That's my beer preference. Some of my other favorites are like Untitled Art. They're out of Madison, Wisconsin. I guess they're technically out of Waunakee, but the Madison area. And then, of course, like New Glarus is just kind of a fallback because that's kind of like the craft beer Wisconsin is known for.
There's a beer other than Coors Light is what you're telling me?
And that's exactly what I knew you were going to answer, Chris.
I was waiting for that as well. Chris is not really Chris is a meat and potatoes guy when it comes to beer.
So I'm going to be completely honest with that too. I don't drink a whole lot anymore. This has been years since my wife and I both kind of did a no drink clause thing, made our relationship better overall by doing that. So for me, beer is beer. Whatever I get, I guess.
Sure. Max mentioned New Glarus. I quite like New Glarus has a bitter black IPA called Blacktop that I like quite a bit. So that's probably my favorite Wisconsin beer. Although I guess I'm not sure if you can call Leinenkugel's Wisconsin necessarily anymore because like Miller owns it and it's at this point relatively national. But in the springtime when it gets a little warmer than this and I'm grilling out, I like to, for a couple weekends, have a summer shandy, which is like a beer and lemonade mix.
Yep.
And Leinie's makes a good summer shandy. So if that still counts as Wisconsin beer, I'm a fan of that. There's also, I guess, and I'm gonna expand one state over because I do go to Michigan quite a bit in the summer. There's a beer called Soft Parade from Short's Brewery, which is down around Grand Rapids that Brainstorm Brewery's Jason Alt introduced me to. And it's a really berry flavored light ale. And in the summer when it's hot out, it's a really easy beer to drink. It's kind of fruity, which is not usually what I like in a beer, but it's very, very good. So that's a kind of a regional one that isn't necessarily Wisconsin that I like.
Dana, have you ever tried the type of beer called a sour? Those tend to be more fruity and more like citrus forward. You'd probably really like them on those hot summer days or when grilling out. That's what my roommate tends to drink more often than not.
And I really should. The last time I've intentionally gone out of my way to buy a sour was probably 10 years ago or so. It's been a long time and it didn't do it for me. But I think I have better taste in beers. My taste has changed enough that I probably should try sour again.
Gotcha.
You guys, I'm going to call you guys lushes, right? That's the Wisconsin term. I don't know. My mother used to call people that all the time when I was growing up. So
I think it's just called being a Wisconsinite, to be honest.
There we go.
And you go to lacrosse and there's a bar every 2 feet. So, all right, onward to the next question we go. So we received 2 questions from Paul. First question that Paul asks is, what is one old school character you want to have either a new version or an updated version? For example, how we got Urza and Yawgmoth or the Elder Dragons in a new version, which I'm trying to think. I don't even remember what all their names are.
Arcades and Vivictus and them.
Okay. All right. So for me personally, I took this question and I changed it a little bit because I don't really know a whole bunch of the characters and all that. And for me, what I did was for technically be old school character, but I'd like to see all the planeswalkers that we've seen throughout the years of them who do not have creature cards receive creature cards.
Oh, okay.
Oh, like pre-spark igniting type of stuff.
Yeah, because the big one was I was thinking, well, Tameo doesn't have a creature card, and that'd be awesome because I thought Kamigawa was, the mindset of the set was cool. The set sucked, but the mindset of the set was cool. So I would like to see, those type of planeswalkers actually receive a creature card of some sort.
Okay, that's a good answer. How about you, Max?
So I'm going to go back to one of the first commander decks I ever built, which was Nephrox, Overlord of Grixis. And I would really like to see him get a new card or be made into a planeswalker or something. I have no idea if he's still alive or not after the Alara story, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. I have a couple answers here that are a little bit different from one another. My first answer would be Jix or Gix, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, who was a Thran who wound up working for Yawgmoth. He hasn't got his own card, but he was a pretty huge character in the storyline. And he's not even definitively dead. During the Phyrexian invasion, he fought Urza, and Urza threw him through a temporal portal, which, I mean, could have killed him, but it could have also just transported him somewhere else. And also, when we went back to Dominaria, we had a legend that was Rona, disciple of Jix. And that could just mean she was a student of, his teachings, but that could have indicated he's still somehow out there manipulating people and having disciples. So that would be a character we've never had a card I'd like to see. Mishra is a character who has a card, and it's playable if you do some shenanigans, but that's like young Mishra. The one I would like to see is old Mishra right before he died, when at that point he's almost entirely Phyrexian. His body's made of metal, and he also may not technically be dead. He died, in theory, with the Silex Blast when he fought Urza, but when Urza went back to Phyrexia to try to find Yawgmoth, he encountered Mishra's body there being tortured. So Mishra's metal body could technically be alive on Phyrexia, and I think that would be a really fun character to get on a card as well. The last one would kind of be the Ugin version of the Bolus card we got in that core set a few years ago, where we got a creature on one side and the planeswalker on the other.
Oh, that would be cool.
Chris kind of mentioned that, but we've never got a Ugin creature, but I would be happy getting a Ugin flip card like that, where we see him when he's a young dragon and then the flip into his first planeswalker self.
Would he be a colorless dragon, though, or would he be a colored dragon that when he ignites his spark, he becomes colorless? Ooh,
I wonder.
That's all questions.
Yeah. That would be cool. So those are my answers for that one.
Well, Paul also asked us, what is the top plane that hasn't been revisited that you want to revisit? And personally, I don't remember all the planes. I lose track of all this stuff. So I just went off the seat of my pants with this one because I'm a red mage. I want to go back to Wrath. I just want to kill things.
Okay. Wrath, I think, is kind of, it's weird. It's kind of part of Dominaria now. But when we went back to Dominaria a few years ago, we only saw a small part of Dominaria. There's a huge plane there. This is a plane we've been to. I would not mind seeing a lot more of Dominaria, including that Wrath area for sure. If we're talking about planes we've only been to once, it would probably be Lorwyn. I just think Lorwyn's kind of a neat world. We're never going to do that.
Everybody else in the multiverse of Magic players.
So I would not mind going back and revisiting Lorwyn a little bit. How about you, Max?
So I kind of have two answers. I would like to visit the smaller areas of Dominaria, so not Dominaria as a whole. Go to the smaller countries, or I'm going to call them countries. They're not countries. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stick with this Alara train. I like what Alara did with the shards and the wedges, so I would like to go back there and see what's going on there. A decade later, almost.
Well, yeah, because it's been what?
10 years?
3 or 4 years since we were in a shard type thing, and that was when we went to cons and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while, so yeah, they could do something like that.
No, Ikoria was, I guess, a shard set, if you don't want to look at it that way. At least the commander set was.
Yeah, the main set was too. That's why we had the triomes.
Yep.
But still, we don't get very many 3-color sets, and that would be easy to revisit for sure.
Yep. It also, I like those sets because it actually throws, a twist into standard, because then it's not just 2 decks or the top. You actually have multiples because you have so many different colors you can do.
Mm-hmm. Listener Brady K asks us, if you could choose one non-legendary creature to be your commander, what's the most off-the-wall creature you would choose? I don't know how off-the-wall it is, but there's a creature in Cold Snap called Tamanoa. Which sounds like it's a legendary creature, and it's from a cycle where where 3 of the 5 creatures are legendary. The only one that isn't is Tamanoa and Diamond Sprite or something, Diamond Fairy, I forget what it's called. So 3 of the 5 in the cycle are legendary anyway. Tamanoa could easily have been. It's in Naya colors, and it's only 3 mana, so it's nice and efficiently costed. And it has kind of a weird ability for Naya. It says whenever a non-creature source you control deals damage, you gain that much life. So it would be a way to use fireballs, essentially. It would be a Naya fireball style deck. So I think that would be a fun one to do, and I'm just surprised it wasn't a legend to begin with. What do you have, Max?
I'm going to go with a kind of a standard all-star from a few years back, and one that shows up in a lot of EDH decks already, but that's Tireless Tracker.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a landfall deck per se, and I'm probably not going to build one, but if Tireless Tracker was legendary, I would try to build a mono green landfall with like just wanting to deck myself, with Tireless Tracker by cracking all those clues. That's what I would build.
Okay. How about you, Chris?
Well, I have two of them. One of them is a horrendous card, but I think it would be fun to do. So the first one is Seasoned Pyromancer. By far, one of my most favorite recent cards has come out. I love the idea of having a commander that I just cast, draw cards, and create tokens with it. And that I can exile out of the graveyard, so I can just be like, oh, go to the graveyard. No, I'll exile you, put you back in the command zone, blah, blah, blah. All this fun shenanigans. The other one was Army Ants. Now, this is an old card from Visions. It is a 1/1 for 3 mana that you tap, sacrifice a land to destroy target land. And it is in the Rakdos colors. I've always wanted a land destruction deck, and I thought it would be fun to just be like, well, you know what? I'm going to destroy your land, but I'm also sacking one of mine, so you can't be mad about it.
Fair. That would be rough.
That's so weird. I've never seen this card before.
Army Ants, really?
Yeah.
It's not a good card, but I think it would be fun to play as a commander.
Well, we have one more question from Brady. What do you think of the check card system with proxies? So that's like where you have a binder and you have cards in it, and then you just use proxy of those cards. So yes, you're proxying, but you do at least own one copy of all the cards, so you can put them in multiple decks. Oh, proxies are a complicated subject.
Yeah. You just wrote a nice article on them, though.
Well, thank you. My opinion on proxies has changed, and it's probably going to continue to change over the years. The place I'm at right now is with recent price spikes, so many cards. Like once upon a time, I'll take a step backwards. 3 years ago, I felt like for the most part, it was easy to play without proxies. A lot of the super expensive cards were ones I felt like you didn't necessarily need in Commander. I don't think your deck needs a Candelabra of Taunos. For the most part, unless you're playing CEDH, you don't need a Guy's Cradle. Like a lot of them were super powerful cards. Right. I mean, a lot of them were so strong that like most metas, just you didn't need that to play there. And if you did need that kind of card, then your meta probably wanted you to proxy so you could compete with them anyway. That's changed, I think, a little bit. I think we're at a point right now where prices have spiked so much that like a lot of cards that are just kind of quality of life cards have gotten crazy expensive. For years, we would recommend people playing Tithe in white decks, mono white decks, because hey, it's a 1 mana spell to go, get a plains or 2 plains. And it was $1 or $2 for the longest time. And it's like a $40 card now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of these cards that were for years super, super easy to get and super cheap that did a lot of stuff and just made decks function smoothly that are now priced out of being able to be purchased by people. So my stance on proxies has changed with that. I just think that it's gotten very, very difficult to play this game on a budget sometimes. And something like a proxy binder, for the most part, if as long as you are playing at the power level of the group you're in and you're not trying to be abusive, I myself no longer care. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm very similar into what you're saying. I do like the idea of a binder system like this, especially like if you are one of the lucky few who has a full set of like the dual lands and other, reserve list cards that are extremely expensive. Well, I don't really want to see you shuffling those cards neither
Sure.
or accidentally someone spilling stuff on top of them. And if you had, the proxy, as long as you're willing to show me that you have that, cool. The other thing about that is, those cards that are spiked up, $200-$300 a piece, well, you can't just own like 4 of them type of deal, So if you want to build multiple decks, well, you have multiple of them, as long as you bring it up to me before we start playing, I'm probably going to let it just slide and be like, well, that's cool. Just let me see that binder when you're done. I want to see what else you got in there.
How about you, Max?
So I like, when it comes to proxies, I like this idea. You have a check card. You play the card in the game, you reach over to what I would call my token box, and you pull out the real Panharmonicon, real Smothering Tithe, the real whatever card you decided you needed to use the system for. I'm definitely okay with that because you're bringing the real card into the game, and it also means you're not wasting time between games taking that card out of deck A, finding the empty sleeve in deck B, and sliding it in. I love that. I do agree that the game is getting more expensive for like Dana said, the quality of life cards, but I also think you can still do digging to find some sort of replacement. Yeah, nothing's ever going to replace Smothering Tithe, but maybe you don't need to run Smothering Tithe. Like, that's kind of where my opinion on some of the proxy stuff is why do you need to run a Cradle in every green deck? Like, justify why you have it in 7 decks or something like that.
Sure.
Maybe you just need to expand your brewing style or your play style. So that's kind of always where I start is why do you need that one super expensive card in every one of your decks where do you really need it for your big stompy monster deck versus your elf deck? But I agree with both of you. You need to bring it up in Rule Zero chat because there are people out there that are anti-proxy and probably aren't going to like being surprised that, oh, I proxied all my fetch lands and stuff because I just don't want to take them out of my binder. It's not even that I'm going to show you I have them. It's, no, the binders in the other room are left at home. That's kind of what irks me sometimes. So a system like what Brady's describing, I'm all for, as long as it's brought up during Rule 0. That's kind of where I stand. Okay, our next questions come from CDM, and his first one is, have any of us switched our preferred MTG accessory lately, such as sleeves, inner or outers, deck boxes, binders, stuff like that? For me personally, throughout the pandemic, I have been slowly swapping over to the clear Ultimate Guard boulders. I was using like the shaded one, so like the blue or the orange one, and it just got to be kind of a hassle to know like which deck is in the blue box this week. So I've just moved to the clear ones. I can flip open my archives, and there are the 4 commanders I brought with me to said event I'm at. But otherwise, no, I stick with my Dragon Shield outer sleeves and my Legion inner sleeves and my Ultimate Guard archives for transportation.
Interesting. Yeah, I have not changed either. I still run Dragon Shield outers, BCW inners, run my boulders for deck boxes. Binders. I don't even know what binder I have. I think it's a BCW 4-pocket. The zip binders is what I use. And then, God, yeah, I haven't changed anything I can think of. Now, if it comes to draft or pre-release or something, I just buy the random cheapest crap I can find because I'm going to destroy it anyways.
I meant to say BCW. Now that Chris brought up BCW, I use BCW inners, not Legion. I always get those two confused when I place my order at the shop.
Yeah, I haven't changed either, in part because I'm too far invested in what I currently have. Like, I know Max uses those boulders for deck cases, and they're smaller and take up less space than the Satin Towers I use, and I like that. However, I own like 10 Satin Towers or 11 Satin Towers, and I don't want to get rid of these Satin Towers that I've paid 10 or 11 bucks for to get new boulders, and I don't want to have mix and match ones either. So I'm just invested in Ultra Pro Satin Towers for deck boxes now, and that's just where I'm at. And similarly for sleeves, I buy KMC Perfect Fits for inner sleeves, and I use Dragon Shield mats for my outer sleeves. And same thing, like since I have so many already, I don't want to have mix and match going on. So it's not worth the money to junk the thousands of sleeves I already have to get new ones, even if there's maybe a slightly better inner sleeve now or something. So I just continue down the road with what I currently have. So I've not changed any of that stuff out either. I guess the one thing I did pick up during the pandemic was I got a card catalog my wife found. It's not a huge one. It's 3x5, so there's 15 drawers in it, but she found it in storage at her school. And so I'm using that for storing my cards now instead of having like a stack of those white cardboard boxes. So I guess that's the one change I've kind of made.
Oh, I'm old school. I have those old like the briefcases that you see older players have that you open it up.
Sure,
it's got like the like the 5 rows or whatever of different slots. That's what I use for mine.
Okay.
CDM's next question is, with all the jumps in reserve list card prices recently, have any of us cashed in on any expensive cards? I personally have
discussed this earlier.
We were doing this off mic, yeah. I have not. I probably should. Like, I could go through my decks and my collection and find cards to, buy list to Card Kingdom or sell on eBay. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to put the time into it, knowing that I might kick myself a year down the road, knowing like I never should have sold that Wheel of Fortune or something like that.
That Wheel of Fortune that was just like jammed in that box that I randomly found.
It's now in a binder. I know where it is. I don't know what binder, but it's in a binder. So that's me.
I personally have. I actually sold 2 recently when Fork and Copy Artifact both jumped. I went in my revised collection and I pulled them out because I was like, you know what? I like having the collection, but the way that these cards are spiking, I'd rather get other cards. So I flipped them and I ended up getting, I think I almost got 2 play sets of the Expedition Fetch lands that came out recently. So, I mean, it was worth it overall, so that's what I've done so far.
Yeah, I've gotten out, and I'm in the process of getting out of some things. I did open a TCG Player store that's not in my name, or not easily recognizable as being in my name anyway, to sell some of the overpriced reserve list stuff that has gone from 60 cents to $30, because it just makes no sense to hold on to some of it. I mean, there are some things that you look at, like Wheel of Fortune. Like they're never going to print a card quite as good as that.
Yep.
It's old, it's iconic, it's never going to, if you need the money, sell it, but like there's really no risk in holding on to it. But like there's, some bad reserve list cards from Legends that already have 6 different versions that are strictly better that exist. And when it, jumped up from 40 cents to $40, it's just not, for me, I don't think it's worth holding on to. So I've been getting out of a lot of those kind of cards just because I just don't need to hold on to them. And the other thing, and I guess we kind of touched on this with Proxies, Chris did, at least talking about bringing expensive cards to the card shop. I'm very much debating on getting rid of the duels I have. I don't have like a crazy collection of them, but I have them in quite a few of my decks. And at some point, and this is all relative. Like when I paid $100 for a Tundra, $100 is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but $100 is the kind of amount of money that I could have it in a deck and go to a shop somewhere and like not feel too bad about playing that card as long as I was careful. If Tundra is like a $600 card or something, that's a whole different thing. That's like multiple car payments. And again, I want to stress, $100 is still a lot, but like at some point you hit a point where it's ridiculous, and I don't even want to carry this around. It doesn't even make sense for me to risk it getting damaged when I could sell it and pay my light bill for an entire year.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm quite there yet, but that's kind of an internal conversation I've been having pretty regularly. And if we see prices keep going up, I am probably going to do that as well.
Now, if we're talking about like reserve list cards of Pokemon, I might have, like Connor and I, my son, went through, and I think we had a stack of like 20 cards that I priced out, and we're over like the $2,000 mark in value of those cards.
Jeez.
And it's like, should I sell these? Should I not sell these? I don't know what's going on with Pokemon. I don't know if this is like a legit trend or what's going on. So I'm still in that conundrum right now myself.
Sure. Because there's always, it's one of those things, when a card is like a quarter, you're like, I'll just get rid of it. I don't care. Once it becomes $20, and then you get greedy. Then your brain starts doing dumb stuff. Yeah.
All right, so onward to some more questions we go. This we received from Andrew. Andrew's question is, when the pandemic is over in 12 years, what is the first place you want to travel to? Okay, I wanted to make sure I read that right. I'm like, in 12 years, like, is he predicting the future or something? What's going on here? So, after the pandemic's over, what is the first place that we want to travel to? Personally, I really don't know. I just want to get out of Dodge, to be honest with you. I don't care where I go. That's pretty much where I am.
For me, first place I want to go, I know my wife wants to go over and see her sister in Minneapolis, who has 2 small boys that are obviously my wife's nephews that she's not seen in like a year. So she wants to go over there. So when we go over there, there's a Minneapolis band that I liked for a lot of years called the Jayhawks, and they recorded an album and got the album cover taken at a location like 40 minutes outside of Minneapolis in Hollywood Township. And I know where the album cover was shot. It's really easy to find online. And I've always wanted to go there and get a picture taken. So I think when we go see her sister at some point later this spring, when everyone's, inoculated and we can go do that, I'm going to grab my brother-in-law and take a little road trip over there and have him take a picture of me in front of that location where the album cover was shot. And then just stop and get a burger somewhere and a beer and enjoy the spring weather and enjoy being able to actually be in public places like that without worrying that you're going to get somebody else sick. So that sounds pretty low key, but that's what I want to do.
So I'm going to exclude the whole I want to go see my family who I haven't seen in a year, because I think that's on everybody's list at some point. Gosh, where would I go after that? I can't wait to go back to a movie theater. Like, I love sitting at home and watching movies on my couch through all the streaming services, but there's something about, like, looking forward to that opening night. Like, I just remember standing in line for Endgame, leaving work early, and just being pumped for it all week. And you get that with these streaming services, but there's nothing like being in that giant crowd of people that all are ready to see this one big movie of the year. And that's kind of one of the things I'm super looking forward to once it's safe, is just to be in that line and see that experience, have that experience with another 200 people in the theater.
What movie did we go to, Max, where you and I were like the first ones in line too?
That was Endgame.
Was it Endgame?
Yep.
I just want to see Ghostbusters and Top Gun 2. Stop doing this to me, world. I just want to see these movies. So Andrew also asked, and this is also a variant because we heard from Mojo Jojo, right? That's how he says his name? The evil monkey from whatever. Sorry about
Powerpuff
that.
Girls, which is getting a reboot.
Ooh.
A live action.
These two questions were kind of lumped together because they're like variants of each of them. So Andrew asked, what are other than magic things that we enjoy to decompress? And Mojo Jojo's variant on this was, what are your hobbies outside of magic? So very similar, both of them. Personally, for me, I am a huge outdoorsman. I love being outside, my hunting, my fishing, camping, all that stuff. So that's what I like to do. Now, when wintertime comes, I like to wish that my life was, better, but that's a different story. I also am a huge anime fan. I like doing other like random games too. Like I play Call of Duty with friends online and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what I do. Big thing I've been doing recently is I've been getting back into reading novels. So I'm catching up with the Forgotten Realm cycle that I've missed and other stuff like that. So that's what I've been doing as of recently.
Okay. I'm a huge music nerd. I listen to a lot of music and, weird old stuff and try to find new stuff all the time too. And I collect vinyl albums as well. So I do a lot of that kind of thing. I used to golf a bit, but I haven't done, I don't think, obviously last summer I didn't go, but like the summer before I didn't do much either. So I get up and golf.
I can't see you golfing, man. I mean, I'm like picturing you right now in those like shorts and those like knee-high socks and one of those hats too. And I'm like, but all I'm seeing is the huge beard on you too. Because I saw you yesterday and I'm like, I don't know about this.
My hair's getting pretty long too.
I know.
But the last couple of years I've not gone much, and I think that's probably in part because I don't really know anyone who golfs anymore. Like I used to go with my dad a lot, and I think without him around to have someone to go with, so I think it was mostly like hanging out with my dad. That was kind of our mutual thing, and I think without him, I'm not that into it anymore. So those are the big ones for me. I'm just busy right now. Magic is my main outlet in part because between work and having a family, I don't have that much time for multiple hobbies necessarily. So this is the main one for me right now. I also I bought myself a nice bike this winter because I have nice bike trails. No,
okay.
like a bicycle.
I remember your mom wanting to buy a Harley. So did Dana buy a Harley?
I did not. So I used to, when I was younger, do a lot of like long distance bike riding, and it's been many years since I've done that. So I'm hoping I'd like to get back into that a little bit this spring. So I have a bike I'm going to start doing, and I guess I can. I'm there right now. It's probably nice enough. I can take it out. So maybe I'll get on this afternoon. We'll see.
Now, Dana, let me know if you can make it up State Street Hill without having to walk.
Yeah, no, that's rough.
So most of my outlets are like video games. That's kind of where I go to really escape. Like magic can be used as a form of escapism, but like I'm not into the lore of magic, so that's where video games kind of take over. I just kind of escape into video games. I'll sit there with my headset on and just play for an entire weekend because I'm a single 30-some-year-old adult, so I don't have many responsibilities as long as I keep my lights on at home and show up to work. Besides that, like hockey is my other big hobby. It's my favorite sport, and the season is partially the way through so far, so it's just nice having it back and having that thing to do at night with my friends and my roommate just to sit down and watch the game.
Makes sense.
And you actually talked about this quite a bit recently on that Commander Crunch marathon episode you did, Max.
I did, yeah. That was a marathon, 3.5 hours, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that was serious.
I'm surprised, Max, because you just talked about sports and all that. When you with the pandemic thing, you don't want to go to like a Ducks game or something like that? I
would love to, but baby steps. Because hockey's probably going to be over by the time it's safe, so that's an extra year. So,
then you can just start watching the kids because kids got their like leagues,
Yeah,
like
very
during
true.
the summer, and you can be like, okay, we're warming us up for the big leagues. That's what we're doing here.
Do you really see me and my roommate sitting at like Hobbs Ice Arena, like, yeah, go get him, number 12? Oh, is that your little brother? No, not at all. I have no idea who any of these people are.
I could, hook you up because my closest friend, all 3 of his kids play hockey. So I could just be like, you know what? You want to cheer on some kids? Here you go. We'll bring signs. So Mojo Jojo also asked, what are our favorite pet cards? This one's tough for me because when it comes to Commander per se, I don't really like have pet cards. In other formats, probably my biggest pet card has to be Lightning Bolt. I play it in pretty much every deck I can jam it into. So, I mean, just one of my favorite cards in general. And I tell people to play it in Commander, because you got people like Dana who go down to 2 life and no one can kill you. And all you needed was that Lightning Bolt and you would have won.
I got a couple, and I think I've mentioned probably most of them on this show. Psychic Possession is one. It's an enchantment you put on somebody else. Whenever they draw a card, you draw a card.
Yep.
I like Overwhelming Intellect a lot. It's a creature counter spell, but you basically just draw cards equal to the CMC of the creature. So I think I consider it really it's a draw spell that hits someone's tempo. But I think it's a really good card, and it's always fun to play. I got to play it on our budget deck thing we did with Scrap Crawlers recently, and hit a 10-drop, I believe it was.
Yep.
Max doesn't sound enthused.
It wasn't my 10-drop, but
it wasn't his, but it was although it put a pretty huge bullseye on me drawing 10 cards. And Council's Judgment is a card I'm a huge fan of. I think it's quite good too, but like I love Council's Judgment.
I'm very happy that Council's Judgment is not like a $40 card anymore.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself, Chris. I have two. One is one I don't play anymore, but it might be getting slotted into Tuvasa the more I've thought about it, and that's Compost. It's 1 and a green for an enchantment.
Ooh.
Whenever a black card enters an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. Just a cool little draw spell. But a more current pet card that I've been putting into a lot of my decks is Settle the Wreckage. I like board wipes, and I like being able to play a more control-style game, so, it definitely, as long as the player doesn't have hexproof or they Teferi's Protection out, it's a great defensive spell that most people in EDH still kind of forget exists.
Instant speed, man. Instant speed.
Yep, and it's really nice doing it against like a 5-color deck where they don't have any basics to go fetch.
I will teach you how you're supposed to build 5-color. It's coming. It's in the works right now.
MTG Flavor Text asks us, which unfinished non-land cycle would you guys most like to see completed? Oh, this one's really tricky. I don't actually know what unfinished cycles there are out there that don't have a completion.
Okay. I think I have an answer.
That are not lands anyways.
Yeah. What's yours, Max?
I think we talked about this on our year-end preview show, and I saved it while we were talking about Modern Horizons 2, but I would like to see the Sword of Feast and Famine cycle finished, because we have, 7 or 8 of them now? So we're only missing 2 to 3 more cards to finish the entire 10-color pairings.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, because this was one of them that I was going to say I couldn't think of anything either, because we got the talismans and it's a non-land, because I want the Horizon lands, but I can't say lands, and I mean it was a tough one for me.
Yeah, I couldn't get lands out of my head really for this one either, so I don't have a good answer there, unfortunately. MTG Flavor Text also asks us, what is your favorite card flavor text? There's some really funny ones out there and some good ones, but mine has a bit of a nostalgic flavor to it as well, which is on Gate to Phyrexia from way back in Antiquities. The flavor text just says, the warm rain of grease on my face immediately made it clear that I had entered Phyrexia. So way back in the day when you're reading this flavor text and you don't really know what Phyrexia...
That does not sound good.
Yeah, I know, right? That's why. Way back in the day when you didn't really know that much about Magic lore and history, you just knew there was this place called Phyrexia where these crazy scary machines came from, and Gate to Phyrexia, you're going to Phyrexia and it's raining grease. That is such an evocative image to me of a place you do not want to be. And grease is such a horrible idea as a rain too. It doesn't come off. You're just covered in grease through everything. How uncomfortable is that as a visual? I think it sets the stage for imagining a machine world. I think it's just a great little bit of flavor text that does a whole lot of work answering questions around it, kind of. So that's mine. Do you have one, Max?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go with the flavor text on Brago himself. My rule persists beyond death itself. And that's how I want to be remembered.
Good answer. How about you, Chris? Do you have one?
Not per se. I think the one that I like the most, and I've actually talked about it before whenever this card's been brought up, and it's definitely on the flavor text of Burnout, where Jaya Ballard just says gotcha, because I love that whole, it's a counterspell, so gotcha, and I'm in mono red, and gotcha, and what's up? What do you do with that?
Sure, right.
So Gabe V asks, when do you think it's okay to kill another player besides the obvious case of that person being in the lead position? I find myself sometimes not killing someone or using an infinite combo because I want people to have fun and play their decks, but then I just die with winning cards in my hand. So this is a very unique question, and probably one of those ones I probably should have prepped for. So I'm just going to throw that caveat out there.
Sure.
I think it all kind of depends. I think there's a lot of variables here. If you are a person who plays with the same 3 or 4 people every week or every other week, I think you don't have to really worry about this because that's such a small meta where you probably see the same decks every week, where I wouldn't really worry about killing someone first unless they've just been on a bad luck spree and have always been killed first for the last couple weeks. Maybe at your LGS, a bigger environment, I think killing someone first when they're obviously ahead is great. I also think killing someone who maybe hasn't done much in the game is beneficial sometimes, because instead of focusing on everybody who's being active in the game, maybe if you get that person out of the game so they can go jump into another pod, they can do that, versus just sitting there wasting their time, maybe gonna make a comeback in the next 90 minutes. I guess it just comes down to, if you think you have found yourself delaying winning because you want to see people do their thing, I think that's a great reason not to win, to see people's decks do their thing. I also think if you're holding winning cards in your hand on turn 4, don't try to win on turn 4 unless that's what the pod is trying to do. But if you're holding cards, winning cards in your hand past turn 10, I wouldn't feel bad about maybe winning the game on turn 11. That's kind of where I sit.
How about you, Chris?
This is really easy for me, and it's just kill him. I mean, being a competitive player, it doesn't phase me. I don't even bat an eye, when it comes to killing someone in a game. Now, when I am playing Commander, I do notice that I tend to just sit back and just kind of nonchalant whatever happens. But if there's an opening, you go for it. It's like in Dragon Ball Z, Goku was fighting this guy named Raccoon, and Raccoon was talking out of his mouth and all that, and Goku just comes up and nails him right in the gut. And Raccoon's like, why'd you do that? And he's like, well, I saw an opening that screamed attack, so I did. And that's what you should do. Just go in, kill when you have the chance, and I guess live with the consequences afterwards. Now, I agree 100% with you, Max, on the fact of, if you're like turn 3, turn 4, and you're like, oh, I can just win the game, maybe hold off unless, someone else already tried that, and then you just go, ham and be like, see, that's how you do this properly. Teach them a lesson a little bit. But otherwise, just sit back, have fun.
Yeah, I think this is from a strategic standpoint, it's really complicated. Number one, I would say if you're frequently finding yourself in a place where you can end the game and people haven't even got a chance to do anything yet, maybe the thing you're doing is too strong for the pod you're in. So the stronger the pod, then the less likely I think most people are going to be annoyed by you killing them early too. So I think that's a factor. We discussed this a long time ago, talking about I've noticed some play groups tend to everyone focuses fire on the weak player to take them out, and some play groups everyone focuses fire on the strong player to take them out, or at least knock them back down to parity. And we, at least locally here, have always tended to be a meta where everyone focus fires the strong player to take them out.
Yep.
I think part of the reason that is we don't play in a heavy combo meta. People do have combos, but it's not like one of those environments where everyone has 6 combos in their deck and they're trying to tutor up that combo and win with that combo every single time. So if you leave that one person who's behind alone, they're not just going to win out of nowhere because you didn't pay attention to them. And I think in a meta like ours where people aren't playing combo, if you ignore the person who is ahead to take out the weak player, then that's one less person hitting that person who's ahead, and that's more time the person who's ahead has to stockpile resource and card advantage and get to the point where you're never going to eliminate them.
Yes.
So I think part of it is also depends on what your meta's like in the group you're in too. I think you have to make that swing. And I tend to agree with Max, if it's turn 10 or maybe even turn 8, there's definitely that point in the game where people shouldn't feel bad about getting knocked out. The game's gone on long enough that something has to happen. And I think that's between 8 to 10, I definitely don't feel bad about it. And sometimes things just blow up. And as long as once in a while you have that God hand and you're just going to win early. And as long as that God hand isn't accidentally happening all the time, most people are pretty cool with that too. Just shuffle up and play again. So I wouldn't overthink it too much.
Yeah, I have seen that out of a lot of decks where it's turn 4 and the guy who you're usually playing with, usually this game goes to turn 20 and all of a sudden he's just creature into creature into creature and he just keeps attacking. He's like, I don't know what's going on, my deck's on fire, and you're just
Right.
This is awesome, just keep going, bud.
As long as you're not the guy who's always I don't know what happened, that's crazy. Because I've encountered that guy before too, but as long as that's not the situation, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So okay, so we have a whole ton of these questions, and I think rather than do a 2-hour show, we're going to just come back next week and figure out and go over the back half of these, because there's still a bunch of really interesting ones to talk about. So I think that is going to wrap up the Q&A part 1 episode of Commander Center this week. We will be back next week. I am Dana. You can find me on the Twitter birds at Dana Roach. You can find Max at CMDR Central _Max, and you can find Chris at Wise Squishy1. Our show is edited by Rafael Garcia. You can find him on the Twitter birds at Ursa Bearwalker. And our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod. Until next week, I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.